I sincerely, I sincerely apologize for that. I used an external mic that I didn't know. I tested it. I didn't know it was off, and I think you can hear me quite loud and clear. I think you can hear me quite loud and clear. Then I said, thank you very much for joining me this evening, Anna Yochime and Felix Ike. So, one thing I want us to talk about this evening, and I have to, I have to, say these things once more. So, the issue here, people. Oh, thank you very much, Chukwudi Nwachuku. You can hear me now, and that is very, very wonderful. It will be nice, Chukwudi, Felix, Anayo, every one of you watching me. It will be nice to know where you are watching me from. So it will be nice to know what you're watching me from. There are many other things you can watch, but you're watching me, and we are having an interactive session this evening. So it would be nice to know where you're watching from. Therefore, I would go on now, and since you can now hear me, what I was talking about is what we do within the Igbo Nation. And what is it that we do? What we do is that in the Igbo Nation, every male child is expected to build a house. Every male child is expected to build a house. And imagine where someone has six, eight male children. Oh, Don James, you're watching me from Australia. I reckon that will be your early morning now. So imagine, and that's about 10:30 Nigerian now. So imagine where you have eight male children, and they are expected in the Igbo cosmology to build their own houses, individual houses, every single one of them. Chukwudi Nwachukwu, thank you from California. Now, I don't know if you people ever thought about what I'm talking about. You have people, children, you have six. The way we were, the way they had us. My family, we have that says we are six, eight in number, two female and six male, and everyone is expected to build a house. Now, take it this way: we no longer have eight children each, but let's say on the average six of us, let's say that we have two children equally, two males. That means you expected that 12 male children will build their own houses as well. Now, give it another 30 years. They have their own children. From their own children, we give it another 25, 30 years. Then you expect that their own children, each one of them will build their own houses in their own, you know, in their own villages. Then there is a fundamental error, and that is not right in my own mind. I think the Igbo nation, the drive that we have that every male child must build a house, I don't think is right. I would explain. You know, if within the Igbo nation we are the smallest part of Nigeria, the Igbo nation, Ebonyi, Anambra, Enugu, Abia, uh, Imo State, the five eastern states. If you put them together, we are not up to one state. We're not up to Niger. We are barely at the size. Uh, Delta State is it's alone. Delta State alone is so massive. Oyo State alone is almost the size, almost not entirely, but almost the size of the whole Igbo nation. Yet every male child is expected traditionally to build a house. I don't know if you people are beginning to see a challenge where I am seeing a challenge, and hence the decision It's been bugging me for a while, hence the decision to talk about it, to share the things I am thinking with us. So that maybe I'm running crazy, maybe I'm thinking too much, maybe I bother too much for the next generation, maybe I bother too much about the Igbo nation. Maybe, I don't know. But the Igbo nation is my primary constituency. Hence, it worries me. Hence, it bothers me. Hence, I talk about it. Hence, I think about how we can make it better. Because that's where you and I will be happy to retire. You know, many of us are not in the Igbo nation today. Many of us are in Lagos, Abuja, in outside the Igbo nation. Some of you are in the diaspora. Some of you, like James, James is watching me. I believe from the diaspora. Chime is watching me from the UK. Felix is watching me from Germany. Wachuku is watching me from California. You can see where we are. All of us male, and we are expected to build a house in the village. Now, my thinking started being cemented when I went to Malaysia and when I visited Singapore. I started seeing the way, like Singapore, um, there was one area in Singapore I saw. They had about 20-story building, and suddenly this 20-story building has been knocked down, and I'm like, what? High rise building or skyscraper is been knocked down and another one built. What does that tell you? That means Singapore has discovered that they do not have land. Therefore, they have to do a different building structure. Because of lack of land, they have to build differently. Within the Igbo nation, we don't have the luxury of land like Taraba, like Benue, states that have so much land. We don't. Now, this is not a Nigerian issue. This is not something peculiar to Nigeria. This is something peculiar to Igbo. Therefore, we must find an Igbo way of resolving it. It worked in the days of our grandfathers because our grandfathers never built the way we build today. One of us, any of us that builds a house today builds about 4, 5, 6, 7 bedroom houses. Or, they do. Many people build duplexes. Many people build what they call 4, 3, 5 rooms and parlors, the way we'll call them. Now, and these things take spaces. And because they take spaces, we are beginning to lose a lot of green areas in the southeast, in the Igbo nation. Today, if you leave Lagos, if you leave Abuja, you're likely to get into your village and have some, serenity, have some calmness. You can hear the birds sing. You can, especially during the Christmas time, you can hear, um, you can feel the hammer time that you no longer can feel in the cities. I stay in Port Harcourt, for instance, and Christmas, you're wondering where is the hammer time? But you only need to drive 2 hours away from Port Harcourt and you come into Imo or Anambra, as the case may be, then suddenly you experience something else. You experience serenity, you experience calmness. Why? Because our forefathers were able to plant trees. But what we do today is that everybody wants to build. We just cut down trees, and many of us don't bother to replant the trees or plant more trees. In my estimation, and that's my concept, and that's what I have done, for every single tree I cut down, please endeavor to plant minimum of two for every single tree you cut down. Plant minimum of two. Now, coming back to the conversation, how would I feel that in the next 10, no, in the next, because from my estimation, in the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, some of us probably wouldn't have been, would be dead by then, but it should bother us how our children would kind of carry on. And when I think about just in my own case, we have six boys. Imagine, like Don James says, they are six in numbers, just like six men and two girls, just like mine. Now, Don, imagine where every one of you builds. That is for me. That's chaos. Everyone building. That's why we no longer have mbobo or abobo, as some people will call it. You no longer have where you can plant vegetables because everybody is building. We are all building. The question thereof is, what is the best way to basically get these things resolved? Can we begin to do more family houses as opposed to individual houses? Because the Igbo in individual nature appears to be hurting us on this case. The Igbo individual nature appears to be hurting us on this case. I don't know what you guys think, but I in my quiet moments sometimes I think about this. I think about how to structure the Igbo nation. Um, you know, these are things that I don't know, maybe through policy formulations or how can we do it that people would begin to listen and that will begin to have better understanding of all these things. And beyond the things that we need to review, that is the IPOB. That means aside the first child that inherits the family house, every other male child is expected to go build house somewhere else. I don't know if that is a very fantastic thing. It might have worked maybe 100 years ago, 200 years ago, but if we think about it philosophically and we want to plan for the future of a great people, then something has to give way, something need to be reformed, something needs to be done differently, because we cannot continue in that way. I think it isn't right. And I don't know, this and again, on the flip side, there are things the politicians can do, in terms of maybe regulating it. But for me, part of the things we can do is to think about, can we begin to build more communal houses? Imagine where someone who is in the diaspora builds a house, builds a six-bed duplex, and that person is in California or is in Texas. He comes home every 2 3 years, and that house, while it's aware that away from home, that house is locked up and no one is in that house. But if that house were to be a family house, it would have been a different case. That whatever happens in that house, someone will be there. It will be a collective family house that the children, when they grow up eventually, and they can probably all come together and at the same time see, because bear in mind, they do not live permanently in these places. A German friend of mine once told me that what we build in our villages are holiday homes. That, you know, um, that these things is just a way to we just do these things and come back there only Christmas time. And Felix says that in his opinion that my concept cannot function. I don't know. What Felix? I would want to know why you think my concept cannot function, because I you might not be seeing the same problem I'm seeing. I'm already seeing problem of scarcity of land. In my place in Anambra State, for instance, because of that scarcity of land, you will be lucky to see a plot of land for 6 million. If you move down to Newe, for instance, you'll be lucky to see a plot of land for even more. And all hands are not equal. Okay, so all hands are not equal. I think what I will do actually, for some of you who might want to make contribution to this conversation, because let us, this is not this might not be everybody's cup of tea, but it would be nice for those of you that are deep thinkers, those that can think ahead of time, those that can say, you know, can think of what they are likely to foresee in the next 15, in the next 20, in the next 50, even in the next 100 years. What I am already seeing now within the Igbo nation, it's something that is going to give us problems. It's something that is going to be an issue for us. It's going to cause confusion for us. So if you want to make contribution to this topic, and I would. And like Felix said, Felix, if you can, this number is only WhatsApp only. If you could just add this number and call me, let me see what your thoughts are. Why you think this, you know, my concept of building a family house would not work. I equally understand that when you marry, when you have like six brothers and you all marry, you all have your wives, and that women do have their own tendencies, and that women do have their own thinking. Why sometimes they want everyone to build independently, but I don't think that is an everlasting virtue. But I think that is something we can unlearn to begin to live in more closer together. It varies within the Igbo nation. If I go to Enugu State, for instance, if I go to Udi, or if I go to Eke, they live differently. They live more communal than the Anambra people. Anambra is like one man, one gate. You build your house, you put your own gate, you fence it, 10, 12 blocks, you put your security, whatever. So imagine where we keep building duplexes, duplexes, duplexes everywhere. You know, for me, it is nothing but an uncontrolled chaos, because at the end of the day, we have a lot of buildings that are not going to be utilized, and we are not thinking enough to save the place for the future generations. I have my first caller here. Yeah, hello, good evening. You're speaking to Mazes Okay Live.
Good evening.
Yeah,
My
good.
name is Ojo.
Audio Kosisi, you're welcome, my brother. How are you? Where are you calling from?
Thank you so much. I'm calling from India.
Ah, okay, Audio Kosisi. Are you the main man?
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Oh, yes, I am.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just joined. I did not get the topic very well, but I think you're talking about land scarcity in Igbo land
Yes,
in
land
distant time.
scarcity and the concept of Ipu Obi. The concept that every Igbo male child would eventually build his own house to go away. You see what I mean? So my
Yeah.
argument is that um, if we are a thinking people, it's something that is likely to hurt us in the future, because if we build up everywhere, and some of us want us to be on our own, and if we're planning to build up everywhere without plans to have a green area where we will be farming, and at the same time where we will even have natural, you know natural air, natural, because we can't just build up everywhere because we are all male children, because we have male children. That's my argument.
Mm.
So do you so
Well,
what's
I
your
think
take?
it's a very brilliant argument, and yeah, it's a very brilliant one, and it's a problem that awaits every one of us based on our concept that every Igbo man needs a building he will call his own, and erecting a building means owning at least a plot or two plots of land in Igbo
Exactly.
land.
Yes.
like you rightly said, places like Inewi and the other places, the lands there are very costly, and it may sound awkward, but I think that's just the only way because we can't create land. The
Exactly.
only way we can create land is probably by what do they even call it? Maybe through River Niger we have to cover some areas, and which is really almost impossible
Yeah, but you still,
to.
because we don't have sea. Remember, you still need that River Niger for a different
Yeah,
purpose.
that's why. Yeah, that's why I say it's really not advisable. But one of the things, that's why sometimes when these northerners are doing what they're doing, a lot of us will just be complaining on Facebook, and we think they do not know what they're doing. And let me remind you again something that there's this guy from Asaba who talked about the history of the Igbos, Igbo East and Igbo West.
Okay, this
I remember,
Cheta, my conversation
yeah,
with Cheta, yeah.
exactly. So I remember the day he was calculating the landmass of the Igbo people when he started from Asaba to Abakaliki and Abakaliki to Aba. I think his calculation was, if I'm not mistaken, about 134 uh, landmass or something like that. So,
It's very easy. I mean, if the way I calculate the Igbo nation is very easy. If you get Oyo State is only Oyo State alone. It's virtually the
okay,
size of the I mean, the five Igbo speaking nation, right?
can you
So
imagine?
excluding almost, but slightly, slightly, there is a slight adjustment. But
Mm,
if you add the whole Igbo speaking area, if you add the seven states, it's not even up to Niger State alone. So
yeah.
that will give you an idea of what I'm thinking. What you see, probably not many people would agree with me for now, but what I'm thinking, you see,
Mm,
sometimes I lie down. These things bother me. You know why they bother me? Maybe because you know, I think a lot about the future. Because when we sometimes we talk about the Fulani invasion, some of us
yeah.
react to the invasion happening now. From my
Mm,
side, I think more of strategy of what is going to happen in the next 20 years and how can we control the things that will happen in the next 20 years from now,
sure.
because we have the ability to. Okay, I was telling someone, I said many people in the diaspora, quote me, go and write it down, in the next 20 to 30 years, the diaspora, the Igbo nation within the diaspora would have a community within the diaspora that they will no longer come to the villages and do traditional marriages
Definitely. And
because
it's really worrisome.
exactly. So, but again, when I say that, some people say, "Oh, Mazi, you're being negative." I say, no, no, no. I'm being realistic. Now, the question is,
Definitely.
if you want to change it, there are things you must begin now to engineer in order to
Mm,
capture the imaginations of the younger ones
yeah,
to help you.
that's true.
Mm.
And that is why I feel no matter how we condemn these Fulanese people, some of their strategies are very beneficial to their younger ones, like conquering lands. Some people may not like the idea because it is never our concept to conquer people. But I think, sorry to say, that's just one of the ways we can acquire lands for our people. And I don't want to say these are the people we need to conquer or this and that, but we need to do something. Yeah, we really need to do something. It's not just you. It worries everyone. Everyone who understands the concept of the Igbo nation. It's something that is very worrisome. So we need to start acting and not talking.
Now, okay,
That's just my
okay,
opinion.
now, my brother, you see, you cannot act without talking. If you act without talking, when it comes to an issue that has to do with a collective, that has to do with the future of a people, it
Mm,
becomes dictatorial. Nobody can read your mind. But for individual
okay.
things, you can decide to go to your village tomorrow and start building a house, right? That's individual.
Yeah.
But as a collective,
That's
you can't. So,
you can.
therefore, part of this conversation is actually to spur us. That's why I'm doing this. Upon everything I could speak about, I'm talking about something that only for very few of us who are critical thinkers. This
Yes.
conversation is not for everybody. I do not
Sure.
expect, if you look at the people watching now, if I'm talking about, for instance, Fulani doing one thing or the other, you can see maybe up to 1,000 or 500 people are watching. But again, by the number of people watching, staying for 3 minutes, 10 minutes to watch, shows you that it is not a topic for everybody. It can only take
That's right.
deep thinkers can understand the part. Now you mentioned that we can, what can we do? We can go and conquer. In the olden days,
That's
of
right.
course, you go to war. That's the reason you go to war, right? If they run out of land, they can go to war. They invade. In this day and age, um, the United Kingdom has Falkland. They have Gibraltar. These are not within the UK, right?
Yeah.
They call it UK external territories. America,
Mm.
has their deal with Guantanamo Bay. So nations go out to conquer other nations. But
Yeah.
we are not a conquering people.
Yes, sir. That's true.
Therefore, that's why I use the example of Singapore. Singapore, no, they cannot conquer. They can't even conquer the sea, and they don't want to conquer the sea because they know the sea has its own purpose.
Mm.
Now the question is, how did they resolve? Because they have the same problem. I don't know. Some of you, if anyone watching me from Singapore, you understand what I mean. It's a very small island like Hong Kong, right? But what did they do? Understanding what is happening, they started building up. So
Okay.
they were no longer spreading, like you build duplex. The same
Mm.
plot of land that you can use to build a duplex, or a very say two plots of land, very massive duplex. When you build up, that can accommodate maybe 50 people or 50 families.
Mm-hmm.
But rather than just waste it on one family. So we must come up. I'm not saying that we must build skyscrapers in our village, but what I'm saying is it must help us to trigger a thinking and a work, that we start working towards finding a solution to how we can deal with that, because it's indeed a problem. Every one of us
It is. It
we
is.
we build houses, we cut down trees, we don't even bother to replant the trees. I mean, I've
Mm.
been doing a campaign of 1 to 2. If you cut one tree, please plant two. You know, so that
Okay.
we should be able to go down to the villages and meet them the way our forefathers. Just being serene, not. And again, you see, we have another problem actually. I don't know which country. Sorry, tell me where. You said you're calling from India, right?
Yes, I'm calling from India.
Okay. I don't know. Do Indians have villages and town? Do must you have a house in village and have a house in town in India?
Uh, Individually, I do not know, but they have villages. I have gone through their roads and see so many villages in India, and they also have vast land. As in, when I say vast land,
Mm,
so many empty lands in India.
mm. So what I
So,
no.
but building in towns and the villages, that I may not know.
So what you see, what I mean is we are a peculiar people, and we have a
Yeah.
peculiar problem. We are virtually the only people that have two house. You must have two houses, right? You have one in the
Okay.
town. Let's say, for instance, you live in Enugu. You have a house in independent layout,
Yeah,
but it's not your home.
that's right.
That's your township house.
Yeah,
You see, you move down to the village, you build another one.
you erect another.
You see, we are talking that we don't have space. Now we are talking about one man. He has occupied two spaces.
Yeah.
So
Not to talk about his children.
exactly. Imagine now
Mm.
his son comes up. He goes, maybe moves from independent layout to GRA, and his son Apokobi again. Then his son has his
Mm.
own traditional Ipobi house in the village. Then he has another one. I mean, honestly, I don't know if that is sustainable. That's my thing. I don't know if that is sustainable.
Well, I agree with you because when we talk, then we might come up with a direction where our activity should be directed to. But in my opinion, I think conquering others is one of the best ways for us
Now the
to
question is,
acquire more lands
you
for
see,
our people.
when you talk about conquering, who are you going to conquer? You have
That's the
your
problem.
no, you have your brothers already within our brothers in the river areas that already are
Mm.
afraid to agree in certain things we discuss.
No, no,
Now,
no, no. There are people like there are some things I really do not want to talk about. But you see, places like Enugu had boundaries with uh, Kogi, and I know that there are some Igbo communities in Kogi State.
mm,
So starting
so
from
you
there
want to
to
go and
bring
you
those
want to
Igbo
go and conquer
communities.
Kogi.
No, I mean the Igbo communities in Kogi. If
Oh
we
dear.
bring them back,
Do you
at least
know?
we will acquire some lands.
Yeah, do you know the one we've been dealing with? I think is Kogi as well in
Yes,
between
I know about that. And
Anambra and Kogi, I think.
yes,
So, and that one we're getting nowhere, and maybe because of the oil. I think
yeah.
if we have to be a peaceful, loving people, you know, I think the issue of conquering people, I don't know. For me, I don't see it as a in the 21st century, and as a people that we are, I don't see it as something that we might be able to do. Personally, that's my personal opinion. Therefore,
Yeah, yeah.
what does that leave
I
us then with?
I agree with you completely, but I think that's just one of the ways we can acquire more lands for our people.
You see, now if I tell you to give me three in Nigeria, you know they do the way they do exam. They say outline three possibilities. If I tell you to give me
Mm,
you've given me one, conquering people.
okay.
Mm.
Yes.
So what else can we do?
The second one is to buy more lands from people we share boundary with.
But
But the
there is
problem
limit
of
now. There is limit of
yes,
buying. There is limit you can buy. The type of land you
and
need is not. There is limit you can buy. You see, we don't bother.
yeah,
If we have borders with Niger State, I would say, come on, let's go and buy half of it. Let them tell us how much is it.
mm.
Do you understand?
So
So,
yes, I do.
mm,
So that's just the problem. Then the third option will definitely not be comfortable for everyone. Like I think lay the foundation for maybe to carry up to 3 or 4 upstairs. So you own your first building, then you sell the upper or the upstairs, then it could be up to 5-story building or something like that. So I think that should be the second one. But you talked about air. So if we begin to go on in that direction, definitely we will not be having that space to
no,
have fresh air
no, we
and
will. We will because what it actually means, you have more space for green areas, then you plant more trees. Because if you come into Singapore, for instance, I don't know, I keep referring to because these are people that when I say we compare like for like, they are
yeah.
like us, and they've been able to conquer. They've been able to conquer this challenge that we are not yet in. But my
Mm-hmm.
projection is the challenge that we will be walking into in the next maybe 30 to 50 years.
Okay.
You know, we again one other thing I was thinking in line with what you're saying is a little bit slight Chinese option where if if I have my land, I donate my land,
Mm.
for instance, right? If
Okay.
I donate my land, the government will build a 50-story building and give me free maybe 99 years lease on
Mm.
it. Therefore, that land that I have donated will
Okay.
now accommodate maybe another 250 families. You see?
Wow.
Then you are the landlord. You've given them that. They'll build it. Then you take you now live rent free. I mean, how long are we going to live on Earth? Anyone who is an adult, there is never anyone who is an adult that will live in the next 99 years.
That brings me to the next question. You know, we talk about the Igbo concept. Everybody wants to own his land, both when he's alive and when he's gone.
Yeah, but that
So,
is it. That's what you see. It comes down. That's what I'm saying. That's the essence of the discussion. It is something
okay.
that we must begin to. It's just like when I argue, the way we bury people in our place is wrong. I keep saying it. I have no apology. You see, the concept of the I think it might be another topic for another day, but let me just highlight this. The concept of
Okay.
befitting burial is just absolute nonsense.
Sure.
Because it's just the same thing. Because our forefathers did it, suddenly somebody dies, we'll buy golden gasket, we'll buy this, we'll buy the other one, and we spend over 5 million, 10 million, 20 million to bury the dead. For Christ's
Whereas
sake,
the
for
person has
me,
never consumed such amount of money from us when
exactly,
he was alive.
for me, if you die, sorry, bury you one day. If I die, listen, if I die, bury me one day. Please don't do no ceremony. I want to be,
Yeah.
I'm saying it on air, I want to be buried like late Chief Dozie Kedife. No, nothing, no ceremony, just bury everybody, walk away. Just dig hole, put you, Sam, that's it. Because we need to cut
No.
this. So it's something that is it's in the mentality that we now begin to need to change.
Mm.
Mm.
Well, these are just my three options. But first, I strongly go for land conquering. And if that
It appears a
works,
lot of people online. Maurice Samuel says, Maurice Samuel says, the conquered never forget. The kings and future generations of the conquered will become a thorn in their flesh. And I agree with him. I agree with him because imagine, listen, our some of our parents lost their properties in River State. The time of abandoned property. Yet, why is it
yeah.
that every time we're still going back to it, we are still talking about it? Imagine you go away and conquer somebody's land. You think you have peace?
I agree with him. It's really a difficult situation, but that's what I think. I still go because we can't create lands
Mm. So we can
except we have to cover it. Except we have to cover it River Niger, then convert it to
no,
lands.
no,
But
we can't. We don't.
because
The,
we need the water.
exactly.
We need the
So
we need the
do
river.
you know the lifeline on that river? The fish, the ecological. Do you know one of the reasons why that river wasn't actually properly dredged is that when
Yeah.
the argument is that when you dredge it deep, it will cause other ecological damages. It might take some lands to it. It could collapse. A couple of things. So I think for me, the covering of river is a no-no. If it's a sea, yes. Like Lagos has that advantage. That's why Lakey they keep pushing the sea, you know. And
Yeah.
but one day when the sea would get angry, the people will say, "Oh, what did we do to ourselves?" But I know it will happen one day.
Anyway, these are just my contributions. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Bye.
Okay. So you've had him. Thank you for your call. Now, if you have Maurice, I think Maurice, you have Maurice. If you can call in, that would be nice. You have a fantastic, you know, argument. And I think I don't know if my good friend from Texas, John Okoye. I don't know if you're still there, John. I would love to have your opinion on this because this is something futuristic that we need to begin to think about. There must be a way out that we must control. John Okoye. And modernity has already solved this problem by building up. Well, John, you see, modernity. I think, John, you're from Texas. You can ring in. Let's have this conversation. Um, Building up for you and I, it's fine. But building up, do you know how people frown? I mean, I haven't seen the highest I think I've seen in my state of Anambra in any village is three-story building. And even at that, it appears abnormal. But growing up, I thought it was insanity. But now getting older, I see a lot of sense in those men who had many children who built and people were able to take flats. Because if you take a flat, even when your dad dies, you still live in that flat. But the sometimes the issue is about maybe maintenance. Are they able to maintain it, in good standard? Because Nigeria, hey, everything is if you don't have money, nothing for you. So if you don't have money to do the maintenance yourself, then you're gonna end up living in a house that is not worth it. You know. So uh, Ken Riba Ken Riba says the fourth option is population control. There is no point in having 7 to 20 children or more. Two is enough. I, I can, Kenry, I think, I think we have actually within the Igbo nation. I mean, I'm talking about the Igbo nation. This is not Nigeria. I think the Igbo nation is actually um, enlightenment and education has actually controlled us. On the average, I think on the average, Igbo people have about 3 to 4 children now on the average. When you see a man who is well occupied, the wife works, and he works, I don't see many people having more than 3 children these days. The ones I know. Personally, I have 3 children. I don't have any intention of having any more. So, so if you look at it that way, the issue of having 7 children, I think it was the time of our parents. My parent had 9 and the one died, so we eventually were left with 8. Uh, you know, so that's my thinking. So Kerry again, he said, would have loved to cope. Okay, yeah, that's fine. That's fine, my brother. Um, the population control. I mean, there is nothing we can, there is nothing you can do. Anna Yochime says, very correct, Maurice. People need to cut down on land use for residents. Exactly. I honestly think we need to cut down. And especially, I will say this. This is not to antagonize anyone, but I will say this. Our brothers from our brothers from America, whenever you want to build at home, you people are not helping. You build too much bogus houses. And again, these are houses you don't stay in. I don't know. You liked so much big size, too much. You to build your house in the villages. Some of you actually use like 4, 5 plots. Build them and interlock everywhere. No trees, just like cement everywhere. What's the point? Can we please build something, modest, 3, 4 bed, modest, something you can honestly come in and clean up yourself and ensure you plant more trees. Please, I can't emphasize that enough. We need to. I'm not being antagonistic here, but I mean I'm talking about a trend I've noticed that especially people in America, the sizes of the houses you build is massive. And you have to acknowledge that we are walking into something that is going to um, that is going to hurt us in the future. Okay, I have another caller here. Uh-oh. I have another caller here. Hello. You are speaking to Mazes, okay?
Hello, good evening. Thanks
Yeah,
for taking my call.
yeah, good evening. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm cranky.
Good job. You're doing a disservice to us and our people. And this is a much needed discussion. We need to have. We should have had this discussion 30 years ago, actually.
Well, we haven't, and that's why it bothers me a lot because we have to at some point have the discussion.
Yes, 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 and but as they say, never late than never, right? It's good
Yes.
that we're having. My position on this is, as I stated on the chat, obviously, it's highly important that we. How can I put this? I think our people have misconstrued wealth or success as misconstrued these things with excessiveness and gluttony to some extent, if you know what I mean, sort of material gluttony, whereby, like you just mentioned, people from the US and same here, I'm not looking to antagonize them, but some as well in the UK, that go back home, is feeling to sort of almost make a statement and over oppress people to show off a certain sort of wealth by acquiring so much land to build a property that would only house only 3, 4, 5, 6 people maximum. And these properties would normally, under normal circumstances,
Be empty.
normally should accommodate 50 people. You know what I mean? So our attitudes need to change. There need to be a paradigm change with how we psychologically see things as Igbos.
Hello.
I think that's. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I can hear you now. You dropped for a while, but that's fine now. I mean,
Yes.
I do understand what I do understand what you are saying. Obviously, when I see some houses, and you can see, when I engage with people that have seen built massive houses, if I had spoken to 100 people, I can tell you honestly that about 96% of them are regretting why they had to build that kind of house because they think, oh, it's only maintenance they do every time this, and the house is too big. They've just wasted the green area they could have used. I mean, you're calling me from England, right? Hello.
Correct. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, and there is one thing
Yes,
we
yes,
there is one
yes.
thing we must learn from the English people. If someone moves from London to Manchester, you see, even if that person is originally from London or that person is originally from Liverpool, he moves to another city, they don't hold again the other property as okay, I'm going to hold it, right? Because that's what we're doing. When we move from Enugu to, so at the end of the day, we cannot build all these spaces. That's the thing. I mean, it's some, it's going to take a lot of conversation, a lot of rethinking for us to get there. It's not, honestly, it's a hard call. It's a difficult one. It's a difficult one.
Good thing is the conversation started. The good thing is the conversation has started, and like what we said earlier, it's basically that to your example. With Londoner moving over to Manchester to cut down costs or go back to be with family and friends or closer relatives. Like you said, they don't hold on to the London property. They actually just sell it off and then move out to the new abode. The issue for us and why we do that with owning properties in Kano, for example, and then building another one, Were or in Abia, it's basically one-upmanship. Ewere Mulo na Lagos, and with another one na Were. You know what I mean? It's one-upmanship to sort of better pass my neighbor kind of thing, and we need to grow out of this. It's a bit dirty. It's not actually the real thing. Like I said, we've misconstrued success with show off. We seriously need to think this one through, to be honest with you. The idea of conquering, that's a no, 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 no. It hurts me to say this, but the Igbos had been defeated at the war. I'm not going to mention the full word of the war because it taunts me. I lost an uncle in the war, so it's still a huge hurt for us. And the word war, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And people started in that war, and we still complain. I still moan about feeling like a conquered group, and I can't, for the life of me, psychologically inflict that on someone else. I just couldn't.
Exactly.
It's like the tormented going out to torment another. Are we psychopaths now? No, no. We should be the example and the difference that we ask for and we aspire to. The Igbos should be the guiding light, actually, of that subsection of the African continent. That's what we should be. That's what our ancestors were. The Ngri people said to everyone. I think the Ingris were people who created what I call sort of a United Nations Human Rights Convention. These guys, before the Europeans talked about safe havens, these guys were talking about welcoming those who were the downtrodden, regardless of their tribal affiliations. The Ingri Igbo people stood for this. These are our ancestors. So we can't be conquerors.
No, we
We
can't.
lead through this legacy of acceptance, of reconciliation, of intelligence. When I listen to the current day B discussion, I use B, sorry, but I just hate mentioning that word. Like I said, I
Yeah,
lost an uncle
I
in the
understand.
war. And he hunted my dad, still hunted him till his dying days. When I hear today's big conversation, there's almost, I ask, where are our intellects? Where did they all go? The debate has been left to anger and almost a slight obsession with a certain flavor of Igbo bigotry. I'm sorry to say this, but I hear it, and I hear people talking about anger bundia, anger bundia. Why are we talking like this? That's not us. We are not them.
You're very,
We
very
are
correct.
Igbos. Our ancestors.
You're very, very
Our
correct.
ancestors said if you are heavy laden and downtrodden, you are welcome in our lands. We didn't have an army. We didn't have a standing
Do you
army
know?
because we were peaceful.
That's why we had the motto of our ancestors, where "Biri can biri," live and let me live as well.
There you go.
And they say,
Live and
"Egbe
let.
egbe bere, ugo bere, nke si ibe ya ebena." Not nku nku kwaya, as we now say these days as Yahoo Yahoo boys. They said, "Gosi ebe ọ ga-ebe." See, that's a very, very, very deep philosophy of life. Ebe bere, ugo bere.
Yes.
You know, just like you said, you rightly pointed out, like the Human Rights Charter. I mean, it's that means right life. I was telling somebody the other day. I said, have you ever paused for 1 second and think, why is it that in the whole Igbo nation we had no prisons? There were no prisons during the time of our ancestors because everyone had a second chance. Before the white men came, they were anabo. There are things when you do like murder, you'll be banished. You might go and serve another king in another kingdom. Then you pay restitution. By paying restitution is that you will work there for certain number of years maybe, and afterwards when you've shown enough remorse, you've come back to your senses, then you become a free man again. No, so there was no prison. And how can someone house you? Our prison was our house. We were housing ourselves. And that is the level of love we had.
Yes.
So we are not a people we are not conquerors. We only conquer with our
No.
brains. We only conquer with our hard work. We only conquer the way we do when you go out, you build, you settle. We know a certain people that come to our place and they go to our bushes. We go to their places, we'll build houses, we'll stay because that's who we are. We are building.
Industries.
Yes.
Industries.
You know.
Industries. I loved it I loved it and I smiled when you mentioned Singapore. I work for a shipping agency in the UK. Funnily enough, um, no, funnily enough, I think maybe that might just be part of the Igbo trait, so to speak. The audacity of the Igbo. And I saw that working in Singapore. I worked in Singapore for 6 months. The audacity of the Igbo. I met two. One was an Igbo engineer at the port of Singapore, and one was a lecturer. And these guys were just making waves in the place. I mean, absolutely decent, hardworking human beings. So, that's why you use the word the audacity of the Igbos.
Yeah.
You may not know how tiny Singapore is. It's almost minute.
No, you don't need to tell me. I have cycled. I have cycled with bike. I've cycled the whole of Singapore from one point end to the other. So it's not. It's it's not. It's a tiny place basically. You know.
Yeah. And these guys, we had something quite similar to this sort of discussion we have, and we're talking about how to, when they found out, I was Igbo, they couldn't tell from my surname. The surname was just because my mom was an Igbo woman. When my dad passed away, married a foreigner to the land from same West African region, but not an Igbo man. Hence, I took his family name. So, they didn't realize I was Igbo until we started speaking, and I could, make out some Igbo words, and one name, type of thing. Just like talking out, the betterment of our ancestral homeland. And we all came to the same conclusion. Igbo people have something good going on already. One thing I observed about the Igbos, we already make room for social mobility. Meaning, if you're a successful Igbo man, you also make room for a younger, maybe perhaps slightly less privileged younger Igbo boy or Igbo girl that can come work, learn the tools of the trade under you, and let them off into the wild world, into the future, build their own wealth and build their own success. So that's a good thing already. Success of a state, of a region, of a people needs access to social mobility, believe me. Like we know, all fingers are not equal, or else it become a state of dog of, the survival of the fittest, where we're not all fit. So we need to help those that stand on their 2 feet to get up. So if those have that going, social mobility, the next step we need to do is undo this entanglement that we've got this unhealthy obsession with excessiveness. So when it comes to land, how we building to an excess, and like I said, it was funny you mentioned Singapore because we talked about the building and how things work, and it was very logical. Same thing with Japan. Japan is a very small island with a huge population. I think at the time it was about 150, 160 million people in Japan. And same thing, when they build very tiny, tiny, tiny houses, but this same Japan is the third richest country in the world.
It's functional.
So does not
It's functional.
exactly.
Many of us, when we build in the, in what we call the ancestral homes, and you build equivalent of houses you have in London, someone say, "Oh, why is this house so tiny?" Now, I give this example. You fly into Nigeria now. You have a 3 bed, say duplex. Normally just a small house, and because that house is comfortable for you, you don't need to arrange people that would, an army of people who go clean this, clean that. You can actually do it yourself if you've come in with your family. It's your house, you clean it yourself. You see what I mean? You can actually clean it yourself.
Yes, yes.
I mean, and
Yes.
I don't know where we have this big manism, of oh now we have to get an army of people, fleet of, and you see like oppressors everywhere, from politicians to even someone who just left America or England or Singapore. Everyone is moving with armed personnel, just like oppressors. Anyway, that's a discussion for another day.
Yes, yes. But I see what you meant. You're right.
Mm.
You're right. And that's going to be the key to anything. That will even be the key to either the Igbos having a self-autonomous region within what we currently call the Federal Republic, or a total separation, a total independent state. That paradigm change needs to happen, because with that paradigm change, when we And there
Yes.
is a system that's logical and includes critical thinking. And the way things are going, I'm questioning, I'm questioning.
You're actually beginning to question our brilliance. Anyway,
Our yearnings will point back at us.
yeah.
Those who succumb to our yearnings will point back at us and say, well, but you want to separate or you want to, a self-governing autonomous region, but you're not as good as the other guys. You know what I mean? We don't look so different. Why do you want this? You touched on the really, really important point, same as I've always done. We can't even have a cohesive voice with our cousins down south. The
Yeah.
Jaws and perhaps even the Biblios and the ethics. We are not even in cahoots. That should be our homework as well.
Anyway, it's a work in progress, and there is a reason why these conversations are being done. It's a gradual process, but as long as people listen, again, this is part of communication. Is when you start communicating, um, it might not sink in the first day. There is need for repetition, from various angles. People begin to listen to a point where it begins to sink in. Okay.
Yeah.
So Austin Nee says, I think we should focus more on education and skill training, than the present trading and school dropout. I agree with you. We should do that because, and that's another conversation I will have another day because the trading, we know it today. Give it more 20 years, it will die. I can tell you that for free of charge. The
Yeah.
tradings, buying and selling, those importing from China, in the next couple of years, it will die. It will die off. If you're in England, you want to buy something now, you don't even need to. In Nigeria now, we want to buy something, you go to Alibaba or AliExpress, you order and you pay, they send it to you. And
Yeah.
someone is still struggling to go to China and bring it. There was a time I ordered a solar street lights. I
Yeah.
saw it cheap. When they calculated the money, so you pay, they will deliver it to you. So no need for someone to get into China, import them on containers. However they bring it is none of my business. All I want the product. So it
Yep.
means there must be a paradigm shift
Yes.
in our total thinking, an overhaul in the way we build, in the way we interact, in the way we, interact with nature, which
Yeah.
eventually includes the way we see the things done by our ancestors, which I've done a couple of videos on. That we have our hallelujah singing brothers and sisters who will see arts and crafts. Our forefathers spent man hours where they have cut down the greatest tree of Oko and the greatest trees of Iroko to do some craft that has no other thing but only that they were able to craft it to represent something, and someone wakes up one day and says the reason why he or she is not progressing is because of that act, and that's and wants to ban it. I spoke to someone who said there was an artifact sold in France. I don't know, maybe you must have read about, for a couple of millions.
Yeah.
And the question is, the person was surprised. I said, well, for me, for now, it is too early to go demand for that artifact to be sent home. Because if that artifact got sent home, we still have our Janjaweed, our brothers, who will go and burn it in the name of prayer and family deliverance.
Yeah.
Therefore,
Yeah.
let us go back and negotiate with the British, with the French. Let them keep it, collect money, and give us our own share of the money. Let us first of all use that money to educate the ones that
Yeah.
will not destroy it when it comes back. Thank you very much for your time, my brother. It's been a wonderful.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Have
Thank
a
you
nice
very.
evening.
You too, then. So, people, thank you very much for joining me this evening. I mean, I hope the conversations that we have had made some impact. At the end of the day, Rome was not built in a day. We're not beating ourselves up. Some of us, many of us listening, have built houses. I'm not saying go knock the houses down, no, but what we're saying is, I think personally we need to rethink the way we build. We need to consider the next generation. We need to, have a comprehensive view of Ipuobi, the Igbo worldview. We are a great people, Ndi Igbo. In my next world, I wouldn't want to trade, be it Singapore, America, anywhere, to Igbo land. I want to come back, and I want to come back from Ezinifite once more. I want to come back from my family, and I want to come back from Anambra State. And that's to tell you how proud I am with my heritage. I wouldn't trade it in for anything, not even in America, not even United States, not Japan, not anywhere. I am a proud one, and I am a proud Igbo. I am proud of my heritage. However, there are things I think we have to begin to think of how to change it, because if we don't, it is likely to, give us some issues in the future. On that note, I would say thank you very much for joining me this evening, and have a wonderful day, and remember